Valorant liked this artist's tweet, and this caused them to get completely exposed on the internet. This is a post made by user Circle Vaca on Twitter. I hope I'm saying that right. By the way, again, before I get into this, don't send hate to any parties involved. But Circle writes, somebody is tracing over AI and nobody cares. Wow, even Valorant supports them. Nice, guys. I really didn't want to do it this way, but my request to show the speed paint in the comments was ignored, and there's too much weird stuff happening to believe it's not AI tracing. I'm not really used to writing things like that, and I hope a lot of people will see this and stop supporting AI. And the user involved is MewMewKitty7. So these are some posts in question, okay? This was posted January 6th, where they made some fan art of ISO and Clove. And this is Valorant's comments. ISO's got the aux, right? And the caption reads, using the grayscale and blocking in the skin color. And then apparently this is like some speed paint, but it says no more grayscale, no more blocking, completely perfect face shading. And here we see the face shading. Interesting. So the color method of like blocking in grayscale and then painting over it, right, is typically to apply the shadows and highlights before you apply the color. It's something that like splash artists do, etc. A lot of like pro artists color this way. It's just like a choice in how you want to color. But then like if you look here where you can see they're coloring in Chloe's face, the grayscale is gone. There is that like yellowy highlight falling across her chest and ISO's arm next to her, like right here, right? All of that is suddenly not visible again. Very, very typically, if you do the grayscale method, the grayscale is visible the entire time when you're coloring over it. Here we have a sketch, right? Sorry, this is just making me laugh, okay? It's Clove and ISO, and then crew neck and like cropped hoodie is fully rendered in, and ISO's body is fully rendered and head as well, but Clove's arms, pants, head, all not there. Like, maybe this could be like a meme, a joke or whatever, and the artist intentionally chose to do this. But like, this is just weird because it says work in progress. Do not edit with AI, work in progress, ... I'm gonna be so for real. Like, if you were to sketch characters and then start rendering, typically when you start rendering, the sketch is basically almost done, right? Where's Clove's head? I feel like almost no artist would make the conscious choice to start rendering without like fully sketching in most of the character. Right? And one thing that I want you to take note of again, all the environmental lighting is drawn in already. ISO is completely drawn in with environmental lighting, and so is Clove's clothing. But there is no background colored in. There is no light direction drawn in with the sun, whatever. Like, even pro artists, again, will have to draw the character, and then once they draw the environment, alter the character so that it blends into the environment. Even pros do not get the environmental lighting perfect on the first try, unless you're tracing something. OP continues, inconsistent style in general. Yeah, people can have multiple styles, but it requires high skill, and you should be able to tell that it was made by one person. So apparently this is 2 weeks apart. These art pieces versus this one of ISO and Clove are literally 2 weeks apart. Come on, I'm gonna be so for real. There are some artists that can improve quickly. From this to this in 2 weeks, you've gotta like sacrifice a firstborn child to get that level of fast improvement, okay? This is OP's proof where they were trying to ask for like a speed paint 3 hours ago, and they're just being ignored. And then another individual made a document analyzing Mew Mew's artwork. So the doc begins highlighting Mew Mew, and they have a separate TikTok page called Isotonic, and it's highlighting her use of alleged AI in her work, where the January 10th update is the fact that she deleted all her social media, actually. So her main page revolves around the ship Clyso, which is Clove and ISO. And here's the thing. Here is the thing. Okay, she admitted that it's AI. So there is this art piece that she had posted. This is of Clove and ISO. They're kind of walking on like a fence with Gecko sitting nearby. And a commenter says, is this your art? Clove says, I use AI generate, but yes, I edited this so they get along. I didn't draw this, but I generated and edited this. And also, English is not the artist's first language, which is why there's like grammatical errors here, which is like completely fine. Another commenter says, it looks like AI. And the artist says, the AI label is big, girl. So this is translated, but somebody commented looks like AI. And Mew Mew says, the label looked too big. More people saying, am I crazy or does this look AI? And she says, it is. So at least here she's admitting it, right? Then December 20th, there is another piece, again, of Clove and ISO. And once again, this doc suspected this to be AI generated. So they were highlighting the fact that, you know, it's odd. They draw Clove and ISO so many times. However, Clove doesn't have their black nail paint, their rings. There's no pink in their hair. There's no earring. Also, ISO's jacket just has some oddities to it. And the shoe lacings don't even match up. So one other thing that you can kind of test for this, and this is like something that I found out recently. This is a post on Twitter talking about this, and if this video is already out, I'll tab this link down below. But this Twitter user, FAI, found out that if you turn up the contrast and saturation of AI pieces, typically they will have this sort of pixelation in the background. This is just due to how AI generates artwork, it just generates pixels, right? And it will do slight hue shifts in the pixels. So a pure white background or colors that look like it's supposed to be one color will have all of this artifacting happening. Like I tried it with my own artwork. It ends up looking like this. You don't see any pixelations happening. When you turn up the contrast and saturation for the cloven ISO drawing, especially ISO mainly, we have all of these pixelations happening on the jacket of ISO. And the ear. These are just kind of odd and kind of could indicate like minor pixel shifts in the color. And you do see it in some of Clove's jacket and hair as well. But hypothetically, benefit of doubt, if an artist were to like throw nightshade over their artwork, it could do this as well. But it's just one more oddity to point out. So the doc continues, Mew Mew seems to know that Twitter does not like AI generated works. So she posted some of the works onto her Twitter. And on the stuff that she will post, like here we go, she posts ISO soon. Do not edit with AI, work in progress. Which is mad audacity, okay, doing that, knowing you've generated stuff using AI, posted it on your TikTok page. Like clearly you are okay with generative AI. And here, this was somebody under their work being like, oh, Grok, color it, da 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 da. Which like nobody should do that, right? But Mew Mew is like, oh, I have a hater that's pissed me off. But again, it's like the thing of like cosplaying the fact that you don't like AI when clearly you do. Just own it, bro. Here again, the doc is highlighting the disparity between the sketch, which looks very, very basic, and the very high level of rendering. And the rendering looks way more advanced and finished than the rest of the artwork. And again, this is just odd because like every artist draws in a different way. So I'm not critiquing your specific art process necessarily, right? But like the sketch is nowhere near finished. Some artists don't really use a sketch at all. They just straight like go into it and that's fine. But this artist chose to use a sketch and it's just interesting. Bam, this is the final piece. The doc points out that the details randomly pop up, no sketch refining. Part of the character seemed to appear out of thin air. And again, she seems to know exactly where the lighting should be without any of the environment drawn in. So here again, we have the work in progress for Clove and ISO in a car. This one is done with the grayscale method. And this is also interesting because like artists who draw with the grayscale method typically stick to using the grayscale method, and artists who don't use it typically just don't use it. It's not really one of those things you swap in between, right? Like if you're an artist that doesn't do line art, sometimes I guess you will, but like typically you stick with like one method. That's why it's just interesting to see them go flip between like using grayscale and not using grayscale. And then here they start coloring the face. Bam, no grayscale. I'm in here! Wait, I did not fully look at this doc, bro. Dude, it's I'm getting flashbang with my own face is kind of scary. Sorry. I'm just laughing. The way they're coloring, as you can see, right? It's a very color picking method of coloring. Not necessarily wrong. Some people do color like that. A lot of AI tracers color like that. They use the color picking method where they have an AI generated piece. They will color select off that piece, color a little bit, and then color select some more, and then color again. And it's like a paint by numbers method of coloring. Not saying you can't do that, but painting with a paint by numbers approach typically doesn't teach you art fundamentals, doesn't teach you color theory, doesn't teach you how to draw well, because all you're doing is select, that's it, you know? Fun to do paint by numbers. So here somebody was asking for a speed paint and Mew Mew says, nope, not comfy posting it. Here's the thing. This is always like a bit of a red flag because like as an artist, are you entitled to show what you're comfortable with? Of course. Now, if you are an artist that's under suspicion of using AI and you don't post the speed paint, you unfortunately will look more suspicious. You are entitled to not post it, but just note that by not posting it while under all these suspicions, people are going to be more like about your artwork, especially because there's already other aspects of their art that's suspicious. Like, I don't know, their art rapidly improving in 2 weeks. I would love for that level of art improvement. And the doc again highlights the different types of rendering where again, in this piece of ISO, he looks a lot more blended out than, you know, in a piece like this, where you can see the lines are a lot more harsher. I really like how the doc gives a lot of benefit of doubt, being like, well, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be that. Like, possibly, this could be just an artist experimenting with art styles, right? Everyone's allowed to do that. Here you can see again, ISO's rendering is a lot more like scribbly. So here we can see more of her art process. So we see, you know, the sketch, the blocking, bam, done. Wait, this is confusing to me because like this is now different than the other sketch we saw, right? If we go all the way up here, this is different than this, right? We got a really choppy sketch and then bam, full render for the clothing. By that logic, right, at this stage, shouldn't, I don't know, ISO's towel and Clove's shirt be completely rendered if that is how this artist typically renders? I'm also confused because this also is not the grayscale method, which Mew Mew apparently uses. Where's the grayscale stage between this and the finished product? But maybe it's the meme, you know? There is a meme going around where it's like, how to draw so-and-so. You know, how to draw a cat. You draw like a circle and then there's like a shitty stick figure and then bam, fully beautifully rendered piece. Maybe it's that. And the doc theorizes that Mew Mew puts her own sketch through AI. So it highlights, here is her sketch, right? This is Clove licking ISO, and Clove has freckles here. Her hair is like ombre pink on the bottom. The choker is a little bit of a crisscross. Here, the grayscale version kind of features something of the sort as well. Bam, here we have the final piece. Wait, this is really interesting. I think the doc is very spot on with this. The freckles are completely different now. Look at where Clove's freckles are. Clove's freckles are now right by their eye and across their nose, like up here. But in this piece, Clove's freckles go all the way down to their cheekbone. It's almost level with their mouth all the way down here. All the freckles are gone. Also, Clove's choker is missing in the grayscale version of the sketch. Might I also add that this grayscale version is not the same as the other grayscale version Valorant commented under. This is using like a very blue for line art that was not featured at all in the other piece. Again, artists are allowed to change their art style, but flipping between all these art styles that are somehow also really highly developed in a really short window is typically unseen, unless you AI generated stuff. Also, ISO's like eyes change. Here in the grayscale version, ISO's eyelid extends very far, almost touching ISO's outer corner of their eye, and then it gets a lot shorter. Not saying an artist can't change part of the pieces between like the rendering piece and the final piece, but this is just another air of suspicion to add to the list of reasons as to why this artist's work starts looking a little sus. Now the doc adds, here are some elements that are strange. The rings, oh yeah, it looks like it's doubled up here. The hair clips blending in with the hair. Here it looks like the artist used the highlight color and painted over the hair. Like they put the clips on a layer below the hair highlights. The outfit tier is looking flat compared to the towel. The blood doesn't have depth. Clothes, accessories don't match. Okay, the accessories not matching is a really damning one, especially if you're somebody that draws the same character a bajillion times, especially if you're like a ship artist, right? Like all this artist does is draw Clove and ISO. I respect that, I really do. You would think they would know how to draw Clove. House drawn very simply, random generated dots. The characters look off. Here, the rendering looks a bit off again. The choker again looks different than how they've previously drawn Clove's chokers. Eyebrow looks unfinished. They're highlighted the choker again. Oh, the nipples being different colors is funny. I think the thing that's interesting is all the random dots because like, I don't know, benefit of doubt, maybe like the artist was, I don't know, drawing on Procreate while they're drawing ISO's shorts, accidentally touched the iPad with their hand and left a dot there. But like, there's just like so many random elements left. Sometimes when you generate things with AI, right, like it will leave random artifacts across your piece. And then the random spread of artwork across their Twitter page, December 7th to December 13th, they have a lot of art. The style is all really different. Some are multiple art pieces across one day. Again, I really like how this document like really highlights benefit of doubt scenarios. You know, maybe she has like a backlog of art and that's why she's posting at such frequency. But even then, like Clove was not released too long ago. So there's only like so much artwork you can make of Clove because Clove was one of the newer agents, Clove and ISO. Yeah, Clove was released like early 2024. So I guess we're making around 2 years, but still like for fully rendered pieces, like 2 years doesn't give you like the biggest backlog ever, right? Like look again, all of the pieces. But I don't know, maybe this artist works like an absolute beast. So there is like discussion of this artist also being transphobic because Clove is non-binary. So Clove uses they, them pronouns. This caused a stir when Clove released as an agent in Valorant because people were being like dicks about it. So there's comments from the artist being like, Clove is non-binary, but I don't care because I love Clove in any form. And then also again, the misgendering of Clove, right? Like they're always accidentally using like she, her pronouns on Clove when Clove is non-binary. Slight benefit of doubt. I don't know what country the artist is from, but some countries are just not as progressive as the US. So like the concept of being non-binary is not one that is as culturally ingrained as the US. Doesn't mean you should be disrespecting people's pronouns. Okay, when you learn that this is the pronouns that this person character uses, please use the correct ones. Okay, it's really not going to kill you. Potentially they come from a culture that it's just not as familiar. So I don't know, right? But definitely in this case, the artist knows what Clove's pronouns are. I do think they could have tried a fair amount harder to, you know, not misgender Clove and use the correct pronouns, considering the fact that they draw such a considerable amount of Clove. So again, here we have Mew Mew's TikTok where she is clearly AI generating images of Clove and ISO. So they've been pro AI since at least November. Some more posts where they drew a base sketch and then said, never mind, can't draw. Just ask Clove on a date and take a picture. Bam, AI generated. So again, you know, we have examples of them taking their work, feeding it into AI and getting an AI generated result. And allegedly they've used AI voice lines as well. So in here, somebody had commented on their December post, where's the audio from? And somebody said AI. And by the way, the voice of Clove, Isla says, hey, I'm aware fans have made models of my voice. I will never consent to my voice being cloned or used in AI. Even a human doing the most dreadful or offensive Scottish accent would be better than AI. So the doc concludes that Mew Mew knew what she was doing. She could draw, chose to use AI, and pretended she didn't. Repeatedly generated artwork, hand painted over them with a hard brush to make it look like she drew them herself. Her socials are filled with art she's made and AI generated ones, and it's quick to spot which ones she made and which ones were generated. And we want to spread awareness and wish no hate or harassment on Mew Mew. And that as of January 10th, Mew Mew has left the internet. And here are just some comments Mew Mew has left where it implies they drew the piece themselves. People are like, you're my favorite Cloven ISO artist. They said, OMG, thanks. Somebody said, I love seeing you express him like that. And they said, thank you so much. I'm so happy. Somebody says your rendering is so clean. And they said, it's not clean. I messed up with the wrong brush and I didn't notice. But I just want to add also, some people were like upset, right, that Valorant supports AI art. So I actually work for an esports org as their social media manager. I'm just here to tell you, like, yes, general social media pages like, you know, Valorant, whatever, like the person behind the social media page has to be very careful about what they're liking and supporting. Many times it's one dude probably doesn't know art, right? So that one person probably was scrolling Twitter, you know, searching up Valorant artists, right? So that they can, you know, like and support fellow artists to keep Valorant's art circle going. It's probably one person who doesn't know art that well, saw the art piece, and because Mew Mew had successfully fooled a fair amount of people into thinking the art is legit with like work in progresses or whatever, they probably looked at it, was like, oh yeah, this looks like a real artist, left a comment because they didn't know. Right? I'm not blaming the social media manager for Valorant personally, because a job requirement to be hired into the social media role for companies doesn't require you to be able to draw, for the most part. Typically, it requires you to have knowledge of social media, knowledge of marketing, knowledge of social trends, being able to edit videos, but art is not one of them. So I don't blame them for actually falling for it. Happens, bro, happens, you know. It does suck that, you know, this is like, you know, one like support that could have gone to a real artist that unfortunately went to somebody that was scamming with AI, but the end conclusion is this person, because they got caught, because they got called out, they at least went off the internet because they knew what they were doing is wrong. Now, the unfortunate truth is people who do things like that probably will end up rebranding and coming back under a different name. They typically don't disappear forever. I just hope that they learn that person clearly was an artist. Their art was cute. They clearly can draw. I just wish they stuck with actually drawing instead of doing the paint by number system and attempting to try to scam their way into what? More clout, fame, producing art faster, producing art that they liked better than their own art. I don't know, right? I personally don't know the reasons and motivations of people who try to scam like this, or people who try to like make it seem like work that they made was their own. Because like, I don't know, at the end of the day, you know you didn't make it, right? Like deep down, you know this is an AI generated image of Cloven ISO. And all the praise, all the glory, everybody's saying how beautiful your rendering looks. You know it's not your rendering. You know that this is not artwork you made. And I personally think, and I'm sure you guys probably agree with me, right? Like there's so much more beauty and joy in like handmade artwork and the flaws and human errors that come with handmade work than AI generating some slop, right? That's just me personally, my thoughts. But what are your thoughts at the end of the day? Don't send hate to any parties involved, right? This is not to bully, it's not to hate. The artist isn't even on the internet anymore. This is just an awareness post of how like accounts like these who do the AI scams, people fall for it all the time. Even Valorant social media guy fell for it. You know, I don't blame them either, right? Unless you're a trained artist with an eye to spot AI who went through the artist page, very easy to take one look and fall for it. So just be aware, be diligent, and if you are an artist, keep committing to creating beautiful handmade work. We'll always be supporting. So if you like this video, I appreciate it. If you like it, subscribe. If you play Valorant, who is your favorite agent? I used to play a lot. I personally was Breach, Sky, and Sage main. I just like being annoying. So yeah, I can't play Duelist, but they're just fun. You just throw abilities around and then hopefully you don't die. And if you don't die, maybe you did something, you know? So those are my personal faves. We'd love to hear your faves. And yeah, don't forget to check me out at Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I have a coffee with free resources, like a free sponsorship guide. I hope you all like my Neapolitan hair. I need to re-dye it because I diluted the dye too much. And with that, I hope to see you guys in my Twitch stream 3 days a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays at 6 p.m. PST, or to catch you in another video. Peace.